First, happy Beauty and Black Day.
Thank you.
Happy Beauty and Black Day Part 2 is officially streaming on Netflix. Your girl
Yes.
got up 6 a.m. because I needed
Stop
to
it.
know if Charlie was in that car. I was up at 6 a.m. because I needed
Oh
to
my
know.
God.
Now, I'm East Coast time. So if I weren't East Coast time, I would have been able to rock at midnight. But because I'm East Coast, we don't get in until 3 a.m. And I wanted to be
Right.
bright eyed and bushy tailed for this interview because it is such an honor to talk to you. And I know we are going to have a good time
Oh
because,
yeah.
sir, I went on a deep dive of you recently. And
Uh-oh.
you are just as fascinating. Ricco Ross, the man, is just as fascinating as the characters that you portray on screen and film.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
just thank you for giving me the opportunity to chat with you today. Like I told you, we are going to have a lot of fun. So, let's start with Beauty and Black. Let's just start where it matters most. So,
Yes.
you are literally killing this role as Horace. Okay.
Thank you.
In every way possible, you are killing this role. Horace is probably one of the most complicated characters that we've seen in quite some time.
Mhm.
He's struggling with his health. He's struggling with his sexuality. He is struggling with this family that is dismantling in real time. Talk to me about the journey of this role coming to you, you reading this script and saying, yeah, I'm ready to take this on.
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I first read the script, when I first got the request to put myself on tape, I was very busy, and I didn't want to put myself on tape. I've been doing so many tapes and been working on a film at the time, but something was going on in my head that was I couldn't stop it, and it was that saying, 90% of success is showing up. And so
Mhm,
I just thought, Rico, just show up.
mhm.
So I got my wife, who's my reader, and I asked her, I says, can we just do this one time? If I get through it without messing up, then we'll send that in. And we tried it. And as you know, I spent a little while memorizing the lines so I can, really get into the character. And then we did it, and halfway through the recording of it, my character's supposed to cough because he's sick, and I coughed at the same time she said the following line. I didn't hear it. The camera's still rolling, so I say in character, "Excuse me," and she's behind the screen going, and then I say in character, I didn't hear you," and then she says the line, and of course we're back on track and we finish the scene.
Wow.
That is the tape I sent in for them for this part. And I
Yes.
and she was saying, let's do it again. You made a mistake. I said, listen, I looked at it and I said, this is the essence of the character. And I
Mhm.
can do it again and not make a mistake, but this is the essence of it. And that's what we sent there. And that's what ended up getting me the job. I didn't appreciate the part until I got the 16 episodes. And when I read them, then I realized what I had on my hands here, and I realized the responsibility because he is the patriarch of the family,
Mhm.
and he also is the CEO of the company, and he has so many different layers. When you first meet him, you think that he is a senior citizen with who's very poor, living on a fixed income. You think when you first meet him that he is elderly and he is not very able. When you
Mhm.
first meet him, you think that he's a nice guy, and that he could be weak. You later on realize that saying they say don't mistake my kindness for weakness. You
Mhm.
realize that really applies to Horace. You first meet him, you think that he could be quite homophobic, and later on you find out that he's actually curious himself. So the character had so many different layers that I just thought this is a dream to play because this character is like embodying the villain and the hero in the same role. And
Yes.
I just thought I've never played a character like this, and I really want to maximize this opportunity. It was a little difficult for me because the description of the character was a 70-year-old man who looks older and moves older. He's dying of prostate cancer, and he it just came across as someone that when you meet me, you don't get 70-year-old man older
Right.
that's ill. And so when I was offered the part, I talked to production. They were in Atlanta, I was here in LA, and I said, you know, I haven't met you guys, but I am not that description. I says, when you meet me, that's not what you're gonna think of. And they said, Tyler Perry personally picked the lead actors, and those are the characters he wants, the actors he wants, and he'll make it fit. And so when I got to Atlanta, I thought, how can I find this character? I mean, I read the 16 episodes, and I read it a few times, and I felt like I had a beginning of the character, but I just felt like I didn't have it. And I started talking to Tyler about it, and then I realized I needed a foundation. My father was a big man in stature, physical stature, but also in the community. And my father never raised his voice. And often when people would raise their voice around him, he would lower his so that they would listen. And I thought, that's my foundation right there. Now
Yeah.
I have to find how I'm going to build this house. And I start trying on shoes because in America we tend to work from the inside out on method.
Mhm.
Uh, in England, they tend to work from the outside in because they do a lot of period pieces. So maybe a certain outfit will make them feel the character, or a certain pair of shoes. So here I am using all of my resources, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got the foundation. That is my method. I've got to find the right shoes. I've got to find the right outfit. Wardrobe was helping me with that. And then Tyler suggested that I use a cigar, that I smoke a cigar. So I started smoking a cigar. I don't smoke cigars, but I
Okay.
started smoking it. But one of the things I found was that when I smoked a cigar, it gave my voice a different tone. And that was a tone that I thought would work for the character. And then I think the last thing was when he suggested that I use a cane. And when
Hmm.
I got the cane, girl,
All
that was
came
it. It was a
together.
wrap.
It
I
was a
said, I
wrap.
got you now. I got you now.
But it's so funny that you mentioned that about the character because even in watching on the outside in, looking in, watching, it is like you said, it's almost like watching him evolve as the series
mm,
continues, right?
hmm Thank
Horace
you.
is an
Yes.
evolving character because even just locking in this morning, because I told you I got up early to lock in, and I'm just like, he is a meanie. There is just you just see these different sides. But if you think about us as human beings, we all have different. The right situation can bring out the wrong person.
Thank you.
You
Thank
know,
you.
and you're watching this, and I remember a particular episode because I encourage everyone to watch if they have not already watched, so we don't want to spoil anything. But there was a particular episode where it was like, oh, y'all got Horace effed up. He is not weak. Y'all don't let, I always say, Rico, I always say, don't let the smooth taste fool you, right? And I said, y'all let the Colt 45, y'all let the smooth taste fool you. Don't let the cane mislead you now. So I just love, out of the entire show, I believe Horace and Charlie, Stephen G. Norfleet, who is my buddy, you two are just, every time he's on screen, I'm screaming, just laughing, just
He's
screaming.
he is on fire. He
He
eats he
really
eats the
is
screen up. He eats the screen up, and
every time.
it's just him. He's got a kind of imagination and an energy that
Yes,
when he's in the room, you are going to see him in the room, even if
absolutely.
he's not speaking. You're going to see him, and he's got that type of energy. I think one of the things that Tyler doesn't get enough credit for is his casting ability,
Mhm.
because he doesn't do a lot of directing, especially with the veteran actors like me and Debbie
Yes,
Morgan, Malik Whitfield.
Lawson.
That's right. Yes, Richard Lawson. He doesn't direct us a lot. He gives us enough rope to go out there and possibly hang ourselves. But he lets us roll, and we take advantage of it. We don't abuse it, but we do take advantage of it. And I think for the younger actors, they bring an energy themselves. They bring a certain energy and creativity. And when you put the two together, it's like building a championship team. You
Mhm.
start off with some rookies, and you add some veterans, and when you get that right mix, magic happens.
Absolutely. So let's talk about working with Tyler Perry because as a veteran in Hollywood, I'm sure you have worked with many different directors and been on many different sets. And I always hear stories about Tyler Perry's unorthodox like style of filming. Like you come in, it's like, hey, we're gonna film a 7 season series. Oh, okay, great. Let me look at the schedule. Oh, 3 days.
You have done your homework.
We're gonna film
You
this
have
thing.
done your homework, girl.
You know who you talking to, Ricco. Come on. But talk to me about just that switch up and just, if you had to personally adjust to that style of filming with all the different sets that you've been on.
Mhm. The first thing I want to say is that there's something about this guy who, because people know him from Medea, they think that he's comical and that he kind of can be silly and whatnot. But when you get to know him, you realize this man is a savant. He is a genius, and I don't use that word lightly. He is doing to film what Elon Musk did to cars. He's doing that, and Hollywood, some of Hollywood understands that right now, but they're going to know soon
Mm-hmm.
because this is the future of filmmaking. It's not an easy thing for a veteran actor to step into his project because it's so different from what we're used to. And I've worked with the biggest directors in the world. I've worked with Stanley Kubrick, James Cameron on Aliens. I've worked with Brian De Palma on Mission Impossible. I could
Mm-hmm.
go on and on. And Tyler has to be put in that conversation because of his unique way of filming. And
Mm-hmm.
you can't. I don't know if it's something that people can duplicate because it's you can duplicate the technical aspect of it. But Tyler also has this ability, you know, when we get on set, the first day I got on set,
Okay.
and I for decades. So I thought, I can handle it. These young cats are going to handle it. I can handle it. The first day I got on set, it was they brought in the pages that you were going to shoot that day. And normally in Hollywood, you shoot 6 or 7 pages a day, something like that. They brought
Mm-hmm.
in a 1 inch thick of pages. And I thought, is this the first episode? They were going, no, that's what we're shooting today. It was 81 pages. Let me tell you, girl, my butt tightened up so tight. I was like,
You had to get Jesus on the main line.
and I had to talk myself down. I said, listen, Ricco, you're going to take on this the same way a person walks 1,000 miles, one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to go and you're going to focus on this first scene that you're going to do. You're going to kill that scene. And as you're changing clothes for the next scene, they have a reader. They have 6 readers, and these readers are there with the actors. So while you're changing clothes, you're running lines for the next scene. And by the time you finish your wardrobe and you get back on set, boom, it's the next scene. You kill that one, you go change for the next. Because if you're shooting a scene, say for instance in a hospital,
Mm-hmm.
Tyler would shoot all the scenes in the hospital throughout the 16 episodes that day in that
I got
location.
you.
And there's no way as an artist or as an actor that you can memorize all of those scenes. So what
Mm-hmm.
you do is you memorize your monologues, your paragraphs, and you become as familiar with it before you ever walk on set. You become as familiar as possible with your dialogue because you only get your dialogue the night before that you're going to shoot the next day.
Wow.
Yes, that's when you get your dialogue
See, I
because
knew
it
I
depends
knew
on what
actors were
what takes place
amazing,
on
but
that.
wow.
It
Wow.
depends on what takes place on that
Okay.
day.
Right, right. Wow.
So
That is
it is it
fascinating
is it is it is it is challenging. And he said that a lot of veteran actors can't work with him in
for
his
that
in his
reason.
way of filming because they're so used to the pace of Hollywood, and it's a completely different pace. But after the first day, I realized, okay, I got you now, brother. I got you. We're good.
So, in preparation for this conversation today, because I don't like interviews, I like to have a conversation. Doesn't this feel like a conversation? It's good, right?
Yes.
Um, as I was preparing, sometimes I get nervous when I talk to someone that I really, really admire their work or their catalog or, just them as a human being, I tend to get nervous. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to fumble my words. I don't want to ramble too much. And then an amazing actor gave me this jewel that I took with me today walking into this interview. I don't get nervous. I get ready.
I love it.
Yes. And I said, Ricco dropped a gem with that one. And I said, you know what? Rather than being nervous, I will be prepared. I will do my homework. And doing my homework on you was absolutely amazing. It was fun. It was fun.
Oh,
To
good.
learn, I learned so much about you. I had to take notes, sir. And we're going to get into these notes. We're going to get into I literally had to take notes. I said, I do not want to miss the opportunity for everyone to learn how fascinating and amazing that you are. Let's start with you. Number one, a Chicago native.
Yes. Chicago niggas, born in Cook County Hospital.
Cook County. Cook County Hospital. And you have a huge family. 5 siblings and 5 brothers and 5 sisters.
Yes, 11 of us all together, 5 sisters and 5 brothers, which is an amazing upbringing because
Yes.
I never had to worry about bullying or anything like that at school because I had my own gang,
Pull up. We pulling up.
We pulling up, so never had to worry about that. I didn't even
Yes.
understand it, and as a matter of fact, I always disliked bullies. The first fight I ever got into at school was with a bully that was bullying someone else. Because I mean, when you grew up with a family that big,
Yes.
and also we weren't very rich. We were quite didn't have a lot of means. But
Mhm.
what I later realized is that we were wealthy. We grew up wealthy because we had love and we had community and we had family. And it took me until until college before I understood that I actually grew up wealthy.
Mhm.
My father, he was an entrepreneur. I'll say entrepreneur because he did everything from working as a taxi driver, a security guard, to running the numbers in Chicago.
Mhm.
And he was a special kind of man. But when the feds decided to crack down on number runners, he moved out to the country and he moved to this area about an hour outside of Chicago called Pembroke, Hopkins Park area,
Mhm.
which Oprah said was the poorest town in the country. So
Wow.
that's the type of poor we're talking about. We're talking
Mm.
about where you can't even afford the 2 O's. It's just po. It's
Yeah,
just
just Poe.
it's
Just Poe.
like that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I didn't know it that was financially poor because everybody around me was similar. It wasn't
Mhm.
until later on when I went to high school that I understood that, oh wow, we were poor. But it was in college that I understood that we were wealthy.
So let's talk about high school. Rico, you went to a high school, Plantation High School.
Girl, let
Plant.
me tell you. Can
I
you
said I
imagine?
was
You
in.
come from Chicago. Imagine coming from the Midwest of Chicago, and your parents split up, and you're moving to the South, and we have certain preconceived ideas of what the South is like. Anyway,
Yes.
we think that people are slow, that they're racist, they're not the smartest people in the country. And I get there, and they tell me that my school is called Plantation High. Imagine what that does to a young kid who's from Chi-Town,
Yes.
and I just thought this is crazy. But that was how I ended up getting into acting. Strangely enough, we
Yes.
had a school that was being built that was going to be called South Plantation, but until it was completed, they had us going to Plantation High,
Okay.
and the student body the original student body would go in the morning time, and we would go in the afternoon. And one day we got there early, and I tried to sneak in. And the teacher caught me, and I lied. I said I left my book. I want to go get my book. I just made it up on the fly, and
Yeah.
she could read right through me. But I was committed to this lie.
Right, right.
And then a little white girl came up and said the same thing, and she had left her book, and the teacher allowed her to go and get it. And I just like I played the race card like it was an ace of spades.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
my eyes got watery, and I just told her, you let her go in there, but you wouldn't let me. And what's the difference between the two of us? We both came up here and said the same thing. And I'm running it. I'm rolling with it. And I'm
Yes.
convincing. And she said, I am not going to allow you in the school early. But what I will do is I'll put you in my play. And that's how I got into acting.
So, wow. So she saw the actor in you trying
She
to get
saw
inside
it.
this. Now, do you think
She
it was
saw it.
two things could be true at the same time?
Exactly.
That she wasn't letting you into school for obvious reasons, but she also saw the talent within you.
Exactly.
Okay, okay. So then from there, so we go to Plantation High School. Eventually, you go head to college, and you got into this UCLA program, and
Yeah, I
you
got into
were
UCLA at
one
yes,
of
they only
12.
accepted 12 people a year, and I managed to be one of the 12, and once I got in there, I thought, "Yeah, I'm gonna make the most of this," and I did, and afterwards, I started working right out of college, and I did Young and the Restless for a while, and then my second big job was, Hill Street Blues. I don't know if you remember that, but
You don't know if I remember that. Don't make me sing the theme song. I absolutely loved, and it was as I was, I'm like, the Young and the Restless, because Victor Newman is a card carrying member of my family. Okay, number one, Victor Newman, Mr. Eric Braden, to be exact, and then I was like Hill Street Blues. I was like, I have seen Rico my entire life. Oh my gosh, Hill Street Blues. That was
Yeah, so
me, and my grandmother used to watch that
did
faithful.
you?
Oh, oh my goodness, Hill Street Blues.
Oh, it was a good show, and it was
Absolutely.
very it was very innovative at the time. All of these CSI shows they sprung from the style of shooting
Absolutely.
that they did. And I played a gang member, and but coming from Chicago, playing a gang member was very easy. The problem with that was after that show ended, and we won 21 Emmys that year that I was on it. That was the last year. Every job I got after that for the next three jobs were playing gang members or those type of characters. So I went back to one of my professors at UCLA, and I I wanted to have an honest conversation. I says I don't want to seem ungrateful because
Right.
I am very grateful that I'm working right off the bat. I'm
Yeah.
working. But I said I feel typecast already, and I'm walking around with a master's degree from UCLA, but I'm only being seen as a gang member in that type of role. And he says, acting is when you're an actor, you're a student of society. He says, I think you should audition for this Shakespearean course in London. And if you get accepted, I think you should move over there. And it would be a good experience for you as an actor, but it would also be a good experience for you as a young man.
Yeah.
And I auditioned, I got in, I went over there, moved over there. And by the time we finished the program, they had asked all the Americans when they arrived to acquire British accents. They said, because we don't want you focusing so much on the accent that you forget about the character. And so
Right.
by the time the program was over with, my British accent was as good as any Brit that was in the class. And I liked them. I followed them. And after the course
Yeah.
was over with, they started going on auditions and meetings and doing British roles and doing Shakespearean roles. So I made up the equivalent of a fake social security
That's
number.
that daddy
And
hustling in you. That's your
and
daddy
I
hustling
started
in you.
going I started going out on auditions, and for the first 4 years after that, I worked as an English actor, and then after 4 years, I got my working visa, and then I was an American actor based in Europe.
I was so tempted to come on and say, "Good morning, bruv." I was so tempted. I was so tempted. I was like, "Nah." I said, I don't wanna jump the shark. I gotta
Go
let
ahead,
him
because
work
I'll
that
go
in a
with
little
you.
later.
I will go
Yes,
with you.
that is absolutely fascinating. So you ended up staying over across the pond for 13 years.
13 years, yeah.
Okay, but in these 13 years, I need you to talk to me about turning down a professional basketball contract. Sir, you be hooping?
Wow. I gotta tell you, I still kind of wish I had taken advantage of that because what was happening at that time, this was years ago, and basketball wasn't as globally played as it is
Mm,
now. And
Mhm.
so being someone who comes from, I've got 5 brothers, and my older brothers, they made their way by playing ball in college. That's how they got through college. And being a younger brother, I'm one of the younger ones. We would battle on the court. And so even though
Mhm.
I never played college basketball, I played like a college basketball player. And so I would have jobs in France, in Italy, in Germany. And as soon as I would arrive, I would ask them, where do the pros play? Because they didn't have pickup basketball.
Wow.
I'd walk in there. I'm 6'3", I'm 200 pounds. I'd walk in there. I said, I want to run with you guys. They hear my accent. I'm a Black American. Come on.
Come
And
on.
we would run and we would ball. And I would be great for like the first half of the practice. And then my wind would just let me
No.
down because I wasn't in that type of condition. But the
Right.
first half, I would kill them. So once we were on vacation in Cyprus, and I asked the same question, I went and played with
Mhm.
the pros. And there was a big guy on their team. He was their center. He was about 7 feet, and he was talking smack to me. So that kind of like just lit me up.
Had to
And
handle their business.
hey, he got dunked on, and even his teammates were going, "Oh my god!" And the coach asked me. He says, "Would you come tomorrow?" I says, "Of course, I'll come tomorrow." So the next day,
Yeah.
I knew he was looking at me. So I
Mhm.
showed out a little bit, and then he offered me a 8-month contract. And I had just had my daughter, who was only like about 6 months old.
Yeah.
And I had the main reason I didn't go was because I didn't know Cyprus as a country. I
Mhm.
didn't speak the language, and I had reservations about bringing a newborn to a country where I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
But I wish I had played. I do
What
wish I had played
position?
that
What
1 year.
position did you play?
Guard, point guard.
That is
And the beauty of
free
that
throw
is
to
that
point guard.
they only allowed 2 Americans on the team. The other
Wow.
American they had ended up playing for the Lakers, and he's now a coach in the NBA. And I was going to be the other American. And I think if I had played, who knows where my career would have gone. But I would have had to stop
Yeah.
acting. So that was the
Right.
other thing is I had an acting career. I was still trying to get that off the ground, and get traction with that. And I had gotten traction with it. And I just thought it would be a shame to stop all that and try something completely different. So that was
Right.
why I passed on it.
That is, you are so just interesting. You are just, it's funny. I was like, would it be, my first thought was Ricco Ross has lived many lives because in addition to acting, going across the pond, becoming an illegal Brit for a little bit,
Yes. Yes.
then you had an offer to play pro ball. You were modeling, but let me tell you what made me scream up in here. You were the leading man in Whitney Houston Saving All My Love for You
All my
video.
love.
I said, is that Mr. Ricco Ross? I said, look at him at the studio keeper. Mr.
Again,
Whitney
you have
said
done
a
your homework.
few stolen moments. I said, that's Ricco stealing the moment. Go. Mr. Ross, put some respect on it. Talk to me about that. How did that come to be? Because listen, let me show you. It is not a game with me and Miss Whitney. Like I literally have. That is the woman I wanted to be when I was younger. I wanted to be a
Oh my
famous singer,
God.
just like Whitney Houston. I'm from Jersey, moved to Atlanta. I have 2 albums, independent albums. I wanted to be Whitney Houston, sir, but I just
Oh
didn't
my
have what
God.
it takes. I didn't have what it takes. But the dream was real. I
Well,
love this woman. And I said, look at Ricco up in the thing. Talk to me about that. Was that during, I made an assumption that that was during your modeling era. Am I
good.
right?
Good assumption. Good assumption. Good assumption. Yeah, I was working as an actor in London, but when you're working as an actor, often, there are times when you go months without work.
Yeah.
So I thought I had to find something else, and I auditioned for, one of the things I that I when I first started in this entertainment business, when I was in college, I took a bunch of ballet classes, and I was drawn to the ballet classes because of the girls in the ballet classes
Of
primarily.
course. Yeah.
And so,
The obvious
but
reason, but it also
yes,
teaches a lot.
yes,
It
and I thought, yeah, I thought I'm black, I can dance. Black people can dance. So I thought, I'll figure it out. And I get into class, and it is not an easy thing to become
No,
good at ballet. You have
no,
to put the
no.
time in.
Yes.
But coming from a competitive family, my ego got the best of me, and I refused to let these other guys in the class be better than me. And because of my basketball, when it comes to leaps and things like that, I was just like, I was showing off.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I got very good at it, and I got offered a contract to be a ballet dancer in Broward Civic Ballet in Florida.
Wow.
And I did a show for them, and it was a great show. And they offered me a permanent spot in it. But I just remember thinking, it's a lot of time in the studio preparing your body for what you're going to do, and you can't talk. And I like to talk too much. I'm like you, girl. I like to use my voice a little bit.
Yes.
So when it came to so I just felt like when it came to modeling, this there was an audition. They wanted tall guys who could move because there was like slight movement and it was choreography. And I thought, oh, I can do this. And
Yeah.
I got the job. And once I got the job, the choreographer says, we book men in 3 shows a year. And we toured the country, we toured the world for those 3 shows, 3 seasons. Women have 4 seasons, the men have 3. I would like to offer you a position as a regular member. The only thing I ask for you, she said, is that if you accept the job, that you do the job, that you show up, you don't cancel on me. That's all. That's the only thing I accept.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would happen is you would do spring's show tour all around. We would hit London, Paris, Milan, Munich, New York, and maybe Vegas.
Okay.
And at the end of the tour, she would book you for the following spring. And the only thing she asked is that if you accept, don't cancel. So I was doing this for 4 years, and I was kind of acting because I just thought I'm going to act like a model. And if they buy it, I'm just going to go head on and let them pay me for it, because I'm traveling around the world with the most beautiful women in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Naomi Campbell was modeling when I was there, and they're paying me.
Right.
And I'm getting to experience this whole different lifestyle. But what happened? Batman offered me a small role in the very first Batman with Jack Nicholson, and it was playing opposite Jack Nicholson. And my dates worked with their dates, and so I accepted their job. And it was a small part, and my career was taking off as an actor a bit. And I just thought, I'll take this small part because it's with Jack Nicholson. But then they started moving the dates, and they ended up moving it till it conflicted with this modeling date. And I had to make a decision, and I had told her, I'm if I accept, I'll do it. So I passed on the Jack Nicholson. And you got to keep in mind, Batman, this was the very first one. No one knew Batman was going to be the Batman it became.
Right.
So I passed on it, and I did the show, but I told her after that I can't do it anymore because it's conflicting with my career.
Ricco, just listening to your story and just digesting it all, you have been in multiple situations like many of us, but I feel like you have been in crossroad positions. Like, do I continue to model? Do I take my chance here?
Mm-hmm.
Not to get personal, but do you rely on a higher power for guidance? Because just from the outside looking in, it appears that you have always seemingly made the right choice. Because they still would have been talking about me over at the thing. Because I'd have been like right in front of Jack Nicholson, like, get out of here, Batman. It's not like you had to decide, am I going to go to McDonald's or Wendy's? You had to decide, are you going to stay true to, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why God has always blessed you, because you are a man of your word and you're honorable, right? Mm-hmm. But what do you rely on? I know now you have a beautiful wife and a beautiful family, but as a young man who is navigating his life and seeing the world, let's not overlook that. You have literally seen the entire world. Some people ain't left their zip code. You know what I'm saying? So just what did you rely on at that time, just to make the right decision in your career?
I don't know. I think coming from a big family, When you have 11 siblings in one family, there are a lot of personalities that you have to learn to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And you take this is like boot camp for getting out into the real world. So by the time I got into the real world, I think I had an advantage in some respect because of those 11 kids. As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, I always thought when I grow up, I want to have 11 kids. Until I had one and I realized how much work it is
Sure.
and how
Okay.
time consuming it is.
Fun making them, but taking care of them something different.
Exactly. So I always appreciate the wealth that I came from.
Mm-hmm.
And people always associate wealth with money.
No.
But I think Africans from the motherland, they understand the real meaning and the definition of wealth. And wealth is community and family. And I grew up with such wealth that I think it prepared me for being out there. And I think it also helped me make the decisions. And I don't know if all the decisions were the right decisions to make.
Okay.
I might have been successful at being a model. I was actually I was good at it because I could move well, and I have personality. I'm not shy, and so you put me on a runway, and you're going to be watching me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're gonna
And I
walk
was
it out.
successful at
Mhm.
basketball.
Right.
I was really good at it, and I had this this young boy with big brother's chip on my shoulder. So when I played against guys, especially bigger guys, I went at them like I was going at my brothers, and trying to prove something to them. So I often had these opportunities and I tried to make the most of them. But I think what I really focused on in my decision making was what's going to be the best in the long term.
In the long
I didn't want to
term.
be a ballet dancer because one of the things I thought is that you're 30 years old and your career is at an end. You're forced into retirement. I
Mm-hmm.
felt the same thing about basketball. You become, you're in your 30s and you start looking at retirement. And so that was part of helping me make the right decision. And then I also thought, what is best for my family, for my wife, for my kids. Those came into my life, into my brain about making this decision. And I would often ask my family, my older brothers who played pro ball. I asked him, he counseled me and said, listen, you got to do what works for you right now. And
Right.
and so I took this information from my older brothers and sisters, and they kind of help guide me through these difficult times when I had come at a crossroad. And then I never looked at it. I never looked at it as a crossroad
Mhm.
per se, but that is exactly what they were. Now that you've mentioned it, and I will look at it in the future that way because that's what they were.
Mhm. Okay, so I tend to get distracted a little bit. You still have not told me how you ended up sitting across from Whitney Houston and she was saving all her love for you.
Let me tell you about Whitney. Let me
Tell
tell you
me
about
about
Whitney.
her. Tell me about her.
First of all, when I was working with her, I was modeling at the time, and that's how I got invited to meet with him about this project. And the director had actually told me, he says, I had already cast this role, but the guy I had cast was too good looking, and that was kind of like a backhand slap. And he did
Okay.
not smile when he said it. But I
Okay.
thought what I'm bringing to it is I'm bringing some skills to it, and I had been acting, and so this was not a modeling job. This was an acting job. And that's the
Yeah.
way I approached it. And as a matter of fact, Whitney at the time, she hadn't done any acting. She was just a beautiful young sister. And we got along great. And I kind of helped her with the acting part of it. I said, listen, just how we're talking right now, when we start getting in front of the camera, forget about the camera. We're gonna have some
Mhm.
fun. If you get inspired to say something, say it. I'll come back with something. And if I get inspired to say something, I'll say it. And let's just have this little back and forth. And she loved the idea. And we started playing around, and when we got on camera, that chemistry happened. I mean, she's a beautiful girl. She's a
Yes.
beautiful girl. I found her very attractive. And I did not know how talented she was. I had heard the song because they would
Mhm.
play it, but it was played on a loop and you didn't see her singing it. And I remember there
Mhm.
was this one scene, and I'm behind the glass, I'm the producer, and she's out there in front of the mic and she's singing. And we had done about 3 or 4 takes and it wasn't working. And the director kept saying, cut. And he goes, Whitney, can you actually sing it? Because I need to see your voice and all that. And she
Mhm.
started singing, and that's when I thought, this girl here, because no one knew who she was really. This
Mm-hmm.
girl here, when she started singing, I said, I don't know how big she's going to be, but every box that you would tick for somebody who has it, she was ticking it. She
Yes.
looked amazing. She sounded like, I mean, a voice like that coming from a young
Mm-hmm.
girl at that age, it was just, I couldn't believe it. And when she started actually singing that song, that's when I knew, I don't know what this video is going to do. I don't know what this song is going to do, but this girl has the potential to be one of the greatest singers ever. And to this day, and it's not just because I was in the video with her and because I got to
Right.
know her personally, but I still think she has one of the best voices, bar none. I mean, maybe
The voice.
Aretha Franklin.
The voice. The voice.
There's something about her voice. When she sings, it's like she's singing from her soul. And if you're a human being, you're going to feel that. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It's like she had an old soul at that time, and we got along so well. We actually exchanged numbers, and we were gonna hang out and stay in
Yeah.
contact. But she was living in New York, and I was living in London, so it didn't work out. And then shortly afterwards, I heard about some guy named Bobby Brown, and I thought, okay, well, that's something
Yeah,
special.
yeah, yeah. That's his prerogative. So, full circle moment. You played Uncle Ray in the Bobby Christina movie.
Yes, and that was kind of emotional for me,
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
because of the story itself. When I
Hmm.
when I read the story, I wasn't familiar with the story. And when I read the story, it was just such a tragedy. And
Hmm.
so I played, interestingly enough, the girl who played Bobby Christina is named Joy, and
Hmm.
she is in Beauty in Black. And her and
Hmm.
I were the only two people that hadn't worked with Tyler before. We were the only newbies, and
Wow.
we had only worked together because we had done the Bobby Christina story. And I played the uncle slash bodyguard, and
Yeah.
she played Bobby Christina. And we had an amazing time. Her and I just loved working together. And when we saw each other on Beauty in Black, she's my favorite actress of all because
Yes.
her name is Joy, and that's what she brings. She brings joy to the set, and you don't see it, but behind camera, she is the life of the party. And I had not worked with anyone else on the show before, and so it was the first time that I worked on a show with all of these people, but the only person I had worked on was Joy. And it was great that we had come full circle. The
Full
Whitney
circle.
Houston project was it was kind of emotional for me
Yeah.
because it brought it back to me, and also it was just such a tragedy, such a
Hmm.
tragedy, because I think if Whitney had managed to stay true to her art and her talent, I don't know what she would have come up with afterwards. It's the
Yeah.
same sort of thing you think about Prince and Michael
Yep.
Jackson. If they had lived on, how would they have evolved? How would their music had evolved? How would they
Yes.
have changed music in around the world, because they had that type of talent,
Hmm.
as
Wow.
you know.
As I know, as I absolutely know. So, swinging back to Beauty in Black, a question that I have for you as one of the stars of the show. Well, I guess you already mentioned that. But after filming, do you guys get to screen the whole thing or do you watch it in real time with us?
No, we've been fortunate enough to have Tyler has invited us to his house. I'll say house.
Yeah, yeah. To his community, to his
When you
zip
spend
code.
$100 million on a place, it's gonna look a little bigger than a house.
Yeah, yeah.
But he
It's a zip code.
in Georgia at that.
Yes.
But he invited us to screen the first two episodes before they came out of the
Okay.
first part. And we went to his house and we had dinner, and then afterwards he says we're going to go downstairs to my screening room and we're going to watch the first two episodes. His screening room was a theater,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
beautiful chairs
Wow.
and all that. But we went and watched it, and then afterwards, before watching it, he pulled me over to the side and he says, "Rico, I want to explain something to you." He says, I want your character to be mysterious, so I'm
Hmm.
introducing him very slowly, and that's going to give us room to go as the series progresses." And he did just that, and so he warned me that because you wouldn't see me very much in the first two episodes. And we saw the first two episodes, and we were surprised at how, when you're filming something, you're so preoccupied with
In the moment.
getting into character, getting your lines right, making sure you have the right outfit on, all these things, that you're really not taking in everything else that's happening.
Right.
But the way Tyler shoots, there's so many moving parts happening. And an example may be, I'll walk onto the set to do a scene with me and one other person, and he'll go, "Okay, Ricco, what's the scene about?" And he knows what the scene is about. And as I'm explaining, he wants to know if I know and make sure
Okay.
we're on the same page. And as I'm explaining it to him, halfway through, he'll do this sign like this and say, "Rolling." So now the cameras are starting to roll, even though I'm still talking. And by the time I finish talking, he stepped out and he'll go, "And action." And you're on.
Wow.
It's like that. It's like that.
Okay.
So it's
All
a
right.
whole different way of filming, and
Yes.
it's a lot of you have to be on your A game. You have to be focused. And so when we get to the screening room and we're watching it and we're seeing that it looks more like a movie than like a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Jam did the music, so it sounds new too. And we're watching this, and we're very we're very pleased with the teamwork, because a lot of people don't understand that when these actors win awards, it's not because of them alone. There's a
Right.
whole team of people behind
Absolutely.
them that makes that performance what it
Absolutely.
was. There's
Absolutely.
makeup, there's hair, there's the crew, the cameraman, there's the editor,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
so many, there are the people that feed you. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many people that assist you to be able to create that performance that you create.
Yeah.
And I think they don't get the credit for it. But when we saw the finished product, we were able to appreciate the teamwork and how that teamwork had worked. Sometimes you can have all the right parts, you can have all the right characters, the right director, the right script, and the project doesn't work.
Yeah.
And other times, you'll get something and you feel it feels rushed. It always feels rushed with Tyler, because he likes to shoot at a pace that's very different from Hollywood, and he doesn't like to do multiple takes. He likes to do one take.
Okay.
So imagine, you're
Yeah.
doing this scene and you lose your line. You just forget your line. He's cool with that. Ask for a line. Somebody throws you the line, you digest it, and then you say it in character and you keep it going. And as a veteran actor, I understood at one point, oh, he's only doing one take. And then sometimes there was a line that I'm not sure whether I want to
Mhm.
go this way or that way with it. So what I would do is I'll give him one version of it, and then I'll ask him, "Let me get one. Can I have
Yeah.
one?"
Yeah.
And then I'll
Yeah.
do my version of it. And sometimes my version will be different words completely. But I would ask for one every now and then, or ask for two, because I want the editor to have choices when he gets
Yes.
into the editing room. So as a veteran, I have the knowledge to understand that this is something
Mhm.
that will enhance my performance later on when they get into the editing room. So, there's little tricks like that veterans would use. And I think,
Yes.
like rookies that watch veterans in pro sports, they pick up on some of these techniques and they start using it too. And before you know it, everybody's on the same page, and the performances are real because we're allowed to do things like that. And when we saw it on the screen, yeah, we were very pleased,
Wow.
and he was very pleased. You could tell he was very pleased with it.
Yes. So, not putting you on the spot, but I
Uh-oh, but
foresee
I'm gonna put you on the spot now.
yeah,
I
but
can
I'm
see
going
it
to
coming.
put you on the spot. I foresee multiple seasons of this show. Would you give me a nod that you would be down? Because I need more Horace. Because listen, I'm already praying for his condition. I'm praying because I know God is a good God. He in the healing business. So I need Horace to get that cough together. Because it's so funny. Every time he cough, I say, "Oh Lord," every time he cough. But is that something that you could see yourself kind of staying around for the long haul? You know, because I know
Um,
that there are a lot of
in answer
different
to your
projects.
question,
Yeah.
I'll say this: we were doing a scene, and it was an office scene where we're at the office, and it's the boardroom, and there's a big clash between Horace and his brother Norman,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you see
Yes.
these two bulls clash, and we finished the scene, and Tyler says cut, And he comes into the room and he tells the cast, look at that monitor. And we look over at a monitor and there's like 50, 60 people around the monitor watching the scene we just shot.
Mm.
And they're extras, they're crew members, they're the people who feed you. They're all
Yeah.
watching the
Yeah.
scene we just shot. And he
Wow.
says, that doesn't happen very often. And we've got something because nobody asked them to watch this scene.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to see the replay of that scene that you just shot. That doesn't happen very often. Then he pulled me over to the side and he says, Ricco, I'm watching this scene and I'm watching what you do. And he says, I'm having a hard time focusing. And he says, the reason why is because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I can't kill him off.
God is a good God.
He says, I love killing off characters.
Yeah, you do.
But he says, I'm thinking, I cannot kill him off. And he asked me at that time, this was halfway through the first season, he asked me if I would be willing to stay on. He says, if you've got some other things happening, I understand, but I would love you to stay on for season 2. And it was at that time that I told him, I said, listen, this character that you've entrusted me to breathe life into is, I've never played a character where you at some point you're the villain, at some point you're the hero in the same role.
Mm-hmm.
I said, these parts don't come around very often for actors. So of course I'm with you until the wheels drop off, brother.
Yes.
And so that was like the moving forward moment
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. I think this is a perfect place for me to wrap up this beautiful conversation with you, because then I'll start rambling like, well, what kind of cartoons did you like to watch? Because I just find you so fascinating. When people who have lived, like, I admire you, because what I see when I look at your life is someone who lived fearlessly. There are a lot of people who want to try to do things, people who want to go live abroad, people who want to try to see if they can hoop, and fear keeps them stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
And just reading your story and doing a deep dive on your career, not to mention you're in half of every favorite show or movie I ever watched. And it's just like, this man has lived fearlessly. And do you feel that? Do you feel like you?
I do, because I think when you come from small beginnings, you know that you can handle that. So everything else has been a bonus, and I don't take it for granted. I pray every morning, and most of my prayer is about gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
and the gratitude of the wealth that has been bestowed upon me. And I'm not talking about dollars either,
Right.
when I talk about that. So,
Right.
I make choices that are risky choices, but I think in life is pretty much all about the choices you make. And some
Absolutely.
people make bad choices and they suffer the consequences of them. Some people make wrong choices and they learn from them,
Mm-hmm.
and they move forward. But it is about the choices that you make in life. And I've just, I've always tried to make the right choice, but I've always also not been afraid of that it could be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I heard from Richard Lawson has a podcast, and I know he didn't create this quote, but I heard it on it, so I'm going to give him credit for bringing it to me. And he says, when you're chasing greatness, you have to learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Wow.
And sometimes it's uncomfortable to move to another country where you
Mm-hmm.
don't know anybody in that country, and you're
Right.
living there. It's an uncomfortable feeling. You don't know how it's going to work. It's uncomfortable to work in some of these countries. I did a movie in Hungary, and it was at a time when they had just stopped being a communist country and they were a
Okay.
capitalist country, and they weren't used to seeing Black people. And I was walking around, and people would stare at me as if I was from Mars. And
Wow.
the difference between them and us is when we see someone staring at us and we catch someone staring, they turn away.
Mm-hmm.
Not there.
Nah,
You
they
catch them
locked
staring
in.
at you, they keep on staring. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
very uncomfortable thing. But it also helps that I'm a big guy. I figure, I could handle myself. I used to teach kung fu in London, so I'm very capable of handling myself. And I think it would be very different if I was a female, a Black woman walking through this country, and people are just staring at you with
Right.
with a blank expression,
Mm-hmm.
completely blank. You don't know whether they think, "Oh, she's attractive," or "She's interesting," or whether they think, "I hate this person." You
Right.
don't know what, and it's very uncomfortable. But I learned from taking these, making these decisions and taking these chances, that I have learned to become comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Wow. And my last question for you. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream? Do you eat ice cream? Because I'm ice cream conversations, so I have to ask. People will be like, "You didn't even ask him about the ice cream, girl." It's like, I mean, he
Don't
did
put
Kung Fu in
any Rocky
London.
Road ice cream near me.
You gonna tear it down?
Rocky Road.
Rocky Road.
Don't put it. Don't
I'm
put
a
it
butter
near me.
pecan girl myself, but Rocky
I
Road.
love me some butter pecan. Not only that, I love me some pecan pie too.
Oh, see, I haven't ventured to the pie. I don't mess with pie too much, but
Pecan pie
unless
is
it's sweet
bomb.
potato, because
Yeah.
Thank
Rocky
you.
Road.
Thank you so much, Rico, for just giving me the opportunity to have this conversation with you. Thank you for sharing your talent with us. You are always welcome to come sit down and chat with me some more when we talk about season 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. You are
I
always
can't
welcome.
wait till you finish seeing the second part of season 1. And I want to talk to you about that after you've seen that, because
Okay.
it's going to be a ride, girl. It's going to be.
Yeah.
And I
No,
was thinking,
listen,
how are you going to follow up the first half? And I know how they did it, and so it's going to be a ride.
it is
I'd be
going to be.
interested to get your views on the second part.
I would love to give them to you. So far, I want to say season 2, but it's part 2. So far, part 2 is giving it up. It's giving it up.
Okay.
It
All
is
right.
giving it. Part 2 is giving it up. So I am locked in, completely locked
Cool.
in. I am going to continue watching after our conversation, but just congratulations on all of your
My
success. And
pleasure.
may the Lord bless you, keep you, continue to keep giving you roles and keep you on all of our screens and in theaters. I'll talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon. Have a
Thank you
great
so much.
day.
All right, and you.
Bye
Bye bye.
bye.